Hey there, I was trying to go to sleep the other night and something hit me, like one of those just woo aha moments. And I have a journal by my bed, especially for these, because sometimes a message just freaking hits me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, "Ah, dude, I need to go to sleep right now, but I don't want to forget about it." Sometimes it's a couple sentences or a word or just a thought that comes up. But this one came up and I just jotted it down, and then I went back to bed. And this was actually a couple days ago. So I've sat on this for a little bit, and now I'm finally ready to dive into it and talk about it a little bit. And it is the topic of primary food. And it's something that I learned from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition back in 2012 when I studied to become a certified health coach through the program. So really, it's primary food are things like your relationships, your career, physical activity, and spirituality, right? And you can break them down into further smaller subjects, but those are the biggest ones right there. Then the idea that the food we eat is secondary food, right? So we nourish ourselves on two different levels: primary, secondary, goes in the mouth. So when we're lacking or imbalanced in our primary food, we turn to that secondary food for that comfort, the fulfillment, trying to fill ourselves up or make ourselves feel better or numb things out that we want to avoid or to pretend that aren't happening, or maybe pretend that are happening, right? So all those imbalances and those quirks that we find in our relationships, career, spirituality, and physical activity become like the holes that we try to put cake and cookies and pasta and beer and whatever else that's your thing into. So what came up is that we need to be filled up and fed by these primary foods versus stuffing food into our mouths as a means to cope. That's how I got up to 253 pounds. My life was a mess. I did not have a good balance between relationships, career, physical activity, and spirituality. I was a hot mess. And so I ate to compensate for it. And I really did myself a huge disservice. And I'm sure that some of you, even though you may not be overweight, maybe you have some metabolic diseases you brought on. Maybe you are overweight. Maybe you're just thin, but you're unhappy on the inside, right? Outside looks good, the inside's messy. So what I equate this to, and the example that they gave us was, remember when you were out as a kid and it's Saturday, you watch a few cartoons and you go outside and you're playing, you're digging in the dirt, you're riding your bike, you're doing whatever, us kids did back then. And time's flying. Nothing matters. You're out having fun, you're doing your thing, you're having your adventures, and it just nothing else matters, right? Then all of a sudden, mom's saying, "Hey, you need to go home for dinner." You're like, "What? It's dinner time already? Seriously, I'm not even hungry. What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Can I just play some more?" Mom's like, "What? Okay." So that's what I'm talking about. We're not hungry because we were too busy having fun. We were living in the moment. We were in the excitement and the adventure and the joy of just being alive, right? So now we're adults. We're grown-ups, right? I mean, how nice would it be to just like go out and play all day? Those times are done. But we can create that to a certain degree. We can have new relationships, new jobs, new adventures. We have other ways to go about doing this. So really what we want to do is get high on life, right? Get fed on life, get fueled and filled up by our life, and while we're having fun, while we're growing, while we're evolving, and not abusing secondary foods, right? We want to be so busy enjoying our lives to the fullest that hunger, right? And I'm talking about the abusing food, doesn't exist. It can't exist when we're that engaged in our life. So being said, I mean, that's like the equivalent of using the energy from life rather than food. Those moments and feelings, those are emotional food. And a lot of us are very much starving for emotional food. And that's something that hit me in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, whoa, all right, I get it. I need to start looking at these areas in my personal life so I can make sure they're all balanced, so that I don't want to get all cattywampus and trip up or slip up. I certainly don't want to be a statistic for gaining all this weight back. So we need to be engaging in those experiences that fill us up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and you know yourself the best. You're going to have some strong points and you're going to have some weak points, and celebrate those strong ones. Definitely be consistent with those, but then look at the ones that you're not doing so hot on those areas where you know that you could see some improvement. So like for me personally, relationships, right? I'm not spending enough time with my husband, not enough quality time. I'm not spending enough quality time with my kids. I don't have many friends. I need to go out and make some high quality, awesome friends. My career, I love what I do for sure. I'm just not making enough money at it right now, right? So that causes stress. My physical activity, that's super. I got that one down, but that took a long time in the making to do. And sometimes it's easier than others to do. And other times I'm like, rock on, I got this, feeling good. Spirituality, yeah, well, that'll be another one I gotta work on, right? So that right there, you know where I stand. I've got some hiccups, and it's just time to do the work. So we're all really hungry for play, for touch, for romance and fun and love and growth and success, excitement, adventure. All of these are nourishment. And if we don't get them through our primary food, we're going to make up for it with secondary food, blow up. Now our clothes don't fit. We're unhappy. We're lucky if we don't bring on some kind of metabolic disease, right? So the level at which we experience all of the, the love, the success, the excitement, all these things is how we shape our lives and how worthwhile and fulfilling we deem our life to be. So when we look at everything in a whole, that secondary food that we eat can never, it just pales in comparison to the nourishment that primary food gives. And we really need to give a lot of attention and focus on what we're doing to enrich our lives. So, speaking from personal experience, using secondary food, trying to fill the void of primary food doesn't work. It just leaves you more empty and more isolated and more depressed and sicker and, all these things that don't feel good, right? But in the moment, we don't care. So that's just the suffering of the mind and the body. Weight gain and disease are the natural consequences of neglecting your primary food and counting on that secondary food and stuffing ourselves with it when what we really need is that primary food. So how can you tell if you are suffering from a shortage of primary food? Well, sometimes it's anger, sadness, isolation, depression. All those are indications that we're falling short of whatever you need for your personal primary food intake. So, like I said before, eating all the cake, candy, and pasta, and whatever it is, it's your thing that you like to go to when you're stressed out and feeling lonely and sad, it's never going to fill you the same way primary food will. So, I encourage you to really dive in and see where you can make some improvements and really reshape your life. So, again, primary food is relationships, physical activity, spirituality, and career. So for relationships, we're talking about friendships, we're talking about romantic relationships, kids, family, everything that comes into play there. So you really can't live in a full capacity without, or, if you're feeling lonely and isolated, you need people. We're human. We're wired for connection. That's just the way we are as a species. So we want to have healthy, happy, quality relationships, right? So friendships are what adds meaning and depth to our lives, and we want to create a positive and supportive community around that. So there's an example of cleaning out your friends like you're cleaning out your closet, right? So if there's things that have been hanging there for a while and they're kind of stale and dingy and outdated and they don't fit you well, or they don't look good on you anymore, what do you need to do? You need to out with the old, in with the new, right? Release and replenish. Well, the same is true with friends, right? If there's people that are constant drama fiends, that might not be someone that is best for you. If it's someone that's just like an energetic drain, you can't explain it, they leave and you're like, oh, Okay, again, maybe someone that you need to reevaluate the relationship with, or if someone that just takes a lot of your time and they never really seem to reciprocate, give back. You know, like friendships should be a give and take thing, not a one up, one down, you know, always trying to get kind of thing. But some people are like that. The big thing is if you feel like you are their therapist instead of their friend, then this is probably someone to release. And if just flat out cutting them completely is uncomfortable right now, then perhaps maybe it's a strategy of spending less time with them, or giving yourself a time limit, setting some kind of boundaries to where you can feel okay about the exchange in the moment without feeling used, abused, drained, you know, all those yucky, low vibe feelings. But if you want to increase your friend circle or increase the quality, I suggest taking some time and identifying 2 or 3 people that you want to spend some more time with. Maybe it's someone who has achieved a goal that you're trying to achieve, or someone who's overcome some adversity, or someone who has qualities that you would like to beef up in your own life, whatever that looks like to you. Someone that's going to help you level up personally, professionally. Reach out to them, set up a coffee, set up lunch, set up, you know, have their whole family over for dinner or something. Whatever is most comfortable for you, but get those people around you and get them in your life. So moving up to relationships, love is food for the soul, and it nourishes your mind, body, and spirit. So being able to have that deeper connection with someone, whether you're married or not, right? It doesn't matter. Sometimes you get in relationship ruts and it sucks because you care deeply for that person, but you're lacking the time that it needs to really connect. Maybe you've lost the loving feeling. It's the warm fuzzies just aren't there anymore. Maybe your focus is turned external, like maybe you have kids, maybe finances are a struggle, maybe your career is a struggle, maybe there's something else going on, right? It all adds up. You want to find time to be together alone and have fun. That's the important thing. Laugh, joke, reminisce about the good times, look through old pictures, go find some physical activity to do together, something so that you can feel better about being with them. It gives you hope and promise and stirs up that loving feeling again. If you are having some issue, you know, with the connection, maybe it's time to get back in that driver's seat and create the relationship that you want and that you deserve. And sometimes that's just sitting and making a list of the things that you want in your relationship and being able to effectively communicate that to your partner. If you have not read The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, I highly recommend you do. You can go online and there's a quiz to find out what your love language is. And a lot of times people are just not speaking the love language of their partner, right? So there's all kinds of different love languages: acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts, and I forget the last one, sorry. But if my love language is, say, acts of service, and I'm always trying to say do things for Jamie, my husband, but his love language is physical touch, but I'm not touching him, I'm not hugging him and kissing him and whatever else it is that he likes, he may not feel loved by me, even though I'm making his dinners, I am cleaning up the dishes, doing laundry, running errands, like whatever it is, right? But he's over here trying to hug and love and hold hands and be sweet and all these things. And I'm just like, yeah, no, not my love language. So we're kind of missing it. So that might be something to look at in your relationship. Are you guys speaking your own love language instead of the love language of your loved one? So with that being said, just to open up a little bit, I guess, like, so Jamie's love language is physical touch. And this ties into relationships at like a foundational level, which is kids that aren't held or touched enough, they don't grow to their full potential. And this is the same for adults, right? So as a child of neglect, growing up with alcoholics and drug addicts, like it just wasn't a thing. And, you know, being told I love you wasn't it wasn't normal, right? So I meet Jamie, and he's physical touch, and he wants to hug, and he wants to kiss, and he wants to hold hands, and and I'm just like, creepy. What are you doing? This is not cool. Like, I'm not okay with this. Now, granted, I've evolved to be okay with it because we've been married for, oh geez, it's gonna kill me, 12 years, but it's a constant growth. It's a constant evolvement. But the whole point behind that is as adults, we're starved for touch too, right? So we think, like, sometimes we do a handshake, sometimes we'll hug, sometimes, it might be holding hands, like, and especially as married people, we kind of lose sight with that, right? And it doesn't have to be sexual touch by any means, although that is a good thing. That's very healthy. But just those everyday things like pat on the back or a neck rub or a back rub or whatever that happens to look like for you that's comfortable. But we're so wired for connection, whether it's being touched or heard, or valued. A lot of times we have conversations and people aren't really listening at all. They're not hearing us because what they're doing is they're contemplating the next move. What should I say that's right? How can I fix this problem? They're not really fully engaged in listening to their fullest potential. With relationships, I think it's hugely critical to be consistently in gratitude and appreciation of your significant other, to be able to say thank you, to be able to say how awesome they are at this, or thank them for going to work every day, or thank them for cleaning up or making beds or laundry or dinner, whatever it is, right? Just even one small thing a day really changes the course of a relationship. Whew, alrighty. Wow, that was a heavy one. I don't know why that was. But all right, so career. We want to find work you love, right? It doesn't need to be just, going punch in, punch out, get your paycheck, go on about your day. If you're going to spend 8+ hours somewhere, it would be really nice if that lit you up and really set your soul on fire, right? So we want you to be stimulated and have opportunities for growth and confident and excited about what you're doing every day. So if you're not in a position where that is reality for you, make a list of things that you like to do, what your hobbies are, what you like to read about, what really gets you excited about life, and pick like the top 5 attributes on that list. Go research what kind of jobs entail those things. And then I'm sure you'll find at least a few. Pick the top 5 jobs that are interesting, that fall in line with everything you listed out. Go check salary, make sure it's something within range and reasonable. If not, can you cut some expenses out of life to be able to go do something that might pay less but is more rewarding for you and give you a better quality of life? And then go apply. Go see what the universe has in store for you. You never know. So physical activity. All right. The dreaded E word of exercise. Our bodies they're created for movement, and they crave the movement. They need it, right? So an example of this was I had not missed a workout in months. I don't know how many months, but it was a lot. And then we left for Hawaii, and I knew that we would be hiking and snorkeling and really active while we were out, but I wasn't pumping iron like usual, and I wasn't walking in an incline and doing all the high intensity interval training that I'm used to doing, right? And so we were gone for, I think, 5 days. And then it was a couple days after we got home that I finally got in the swing of things. And I started to feel yucky. And I was like, what is up with this? Am I depressed? Like, what the hell is wrong with me, right? And what I had found out that it was that taking that much time off of working out for me produced that. And so as soon as I got into the swing of things and back into my routine, I felt fine. So it goes to show that there's a lot of value in keeping yourself moving. Now, do you have to work out at the level I work out? Hell no, you don't. You have to find something that feels good to you, that you can do on a daily basis, that is something you can make into a daily habit, right? So does it need to be workout? No. It could be walking. It could be riding your bike. It could be swimming. It could be walking the dog. It could be playing with the kids. Like, there's so many different things that you can make this, that it doesn't have to be, go to the gym, bam, done kind of thing. But what you want to do is find something that is in balance and makes sense for what you have going on. So For example, if you're feeling unbalanced, unfocused, maybe it's time for some vigorous exercise. Maybe you need to hit the weights. Maybe you need to go running. Maybe you need a kickboxing class, right? Something wild, just like, get that out of your system. But if you're feeling tight and tensed and stressed, maybe you need a gentle activity like yoga or swimming or Pilates to calm you down, right? Maybe some deep breathing or meditation goes a long way also. But really, there's no right and wrong exercise. I mean, if you listen intuitively, your body's telling you what it needs and what it wants, right? So with that also being said, there's no right or wrong time to exercise, whether it's in the morning, midday, or at night. You and your body are different than everybody else on the face of the earth. So you have to listen and be intuitive about what works best for you. Personally, I like doing it right away in the morning. Then it's just done. I have some energy. I feel confident. I feel like it's harder for me to mess up throughout the day because I've already put in the work and I don't want to screw it up. I also like the afterburn effect, right? So my heart rate's higher and burning more calories at rest for a few hours after I'm done. So a little French benefit. And then, of course, the kids are not home and I don't have stresses on me. I'm not tired from the day. There's a lot to it, right? But that's just me personally. Those are just a few reasons I do it right away in the morning. But really, it's finding something that's enjoyable, something that's realistic, something that's not painful for you mentally or physically. And you really want an hour a day, right? But do you have to do that hour all once? No. Could you do it 5 minutes at a time? Sure. Work your way up. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start somewhere. Spirituality is, it's different because it means so many different things to so many different people, right? So for me, I look at it as being in harmony with the universe and living from my heart as much as possible, as opposed to being in my head and in fear, right? So what does that look like? I don't know. It could be meditation, could be religious services, could be reading, nature walks, nature hikes. However you are able to get calm, present, and in the moment. That is what's important. Letting go of control and feeling versus thinking, responding versus reacting, right? So what helps to be in tune with your spirituality is having access to that intuition, to the synchronicity, being able to receive the signs that you're getting on a daily basis and otherwise probably are like, whatever, right? You can actually see them, you can hear them. You are able to feel that direction and feel those nudges that life is pushing you towards for the direction that your life needs to be going. Life is always for us. And I know that there's been times in my life I'm like, yeah, right. Seriously, I can't do this anymore. But it's true. Life always has our highest good in its sights. We need to let go and let the universe do what it's got to do, right? And the more we try to control things, sometimes the messier it gets because we're getting in the way of universal law. So a healthy spiritual life is really a balance of extremes. And so I view these as guardrails, right? So there's the universal plan versus our personal desires, right? And then there's our willpower versus just letting go of control, letting go of the steering wheel and letting the universe do its thing because it knows where it's going. And then spontaneous impulses versus these the goals that we have set concrete, right? So really the idea is to be able to navigate these guardrails somewhere in between without going overboard on either side, right? That's the science behind all this. So learning how to walk in the middle of all that in a healthy manner. So deepening your connection spiritually is really living from the heart, as I said, and it's gravitating towards what feels good, right? It doesn't always need to make sense, but it feels good. You're not hurting yourself. You're not hurting others. And sometimes, frankly, it scares the shit out of you. Then that might be a nudge from the universe going, okay, you got to go this way. But speaking from personal experience, building your spiritual practice is immensely helpful in coping with emotions and stress, being able to better deal with those and having that deeper connection with others and really just experiencing more joy in life in general. So coming full tilt here, the circle of life, like one of the things that I speak to my clients about, it encompasses these. And the idea behind the exercise is that you want each of these categories to be as close to the outside of the circle as possible, right? So you got a wheel going on. And sometimes I have clients that, they're doing pretty good in certain areas, and that's pretty close to the edge, and then they're tanking in a couple others, and so it kind of looks all jagged and weird. And if you think about it as a wheel, it's not going to flow smoothly. It's going to go whoosh, da-dumph, 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 right? And you're going to be tripping up and tripping up on these same areas. So what we do is we celebrate all these wins, and we celebrate all these things, that the components that they're doing well at, and then we look at where they're tripping up and where they're slipping up and where there's room for improvement, and that's how we get that circle to be complete. So life is moving at a much more even pace and more smooth, the most smooth possible. So those areas that we look at are confidence, education, career, finances, your health, your physical activity, your home cooking, your home environment, your relationships, your social life, your creativity, and your spirituality. So this all came from this little nudge that I needed to talk to you guys about primary food, and it's critical. And I think that what we need to teach is what we need to learn the most. And so, yeah, I have a lot of knowledge in this area, but does that mean I use it every day? Does that mean I use it consistently? No. So there is my take on primary food and what you can do about it. Hopefully you can ascertain what areas that you are killing it in, and which areas that you might need to give a little bit more of focus and attention to.